All right, welcome to The Explainer. We're diving straight into a really fascinating question, one that the 17th century theologian John Owen was wrestling with, and it's this. What did faith actually look like for people, before Christ even showed up? It's a bigger question than you might think, and it really challenges how we see things today.
So think about it. It's super easy for us to read the Old Testament and just assume that, the folks back then had the same big picture we do. But John Owen, he says, not so fast. He argues their faith was, it was totally different. It was all wrapped up in this hope that was, weirdly enough, both crystal clear and super mysterious at the same time.
Okay, so what was it all about then? According to Owen, the main point, the central focus for literally thousands of years, wasn't some complicated set of rules or a detailed roadmap of salvation. Nope. It was all about a single promised person.
And that's the key right there. Their entire spiritual life, every ounce of hope they had for being saved, was built on trusting who this person, this Redeemer, was going to be. It wasn't about the what or the how. It was all about the who.
Owen puts it so simply, doesn't he? He says their faith was all about his person. The main thing they were holding on to, the anchor for their souls, was the Messiah himself. They knew God's whole plan was built in him, even if they couldn't see all the fine print of what he was going to do.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. You've got this central tension in the Old Testament faith, this big contrast between what they knew and what was still a total mystery. They were absolutely certain about who was coming, but they had basically no idea how he was going to pull it all off.
So on one hand, they knew his identity. He was the Son of God, the promised seed. That part was solid. But the how was salvation actually going to work? That was completely hidden. It's kind of like, how you can see a shadow of a person around a corner? You know someone's there, but you can't see their face or what they're doing. That's what it was like for them. They saw the shadow of good things to come, but not the real thing. And get this, Owen's best example is actually the Apostle Peter. Think about it. Even Jesus' inner circle, the guys who walked with him every day, they knew who he was. Peter himself says it, right? You are the Christ. He nailed the who. But the moment Jesus starts talking about how he's going to save them, by suffering and dying, Peter just can't handle it. He totally rejects it. It shows you that even for them, that part of the plan was still in the shadows, just waiting for the day to break.
So, this promise of a person, it wasn't just a one-and-done thing. Not at all. It was more like a golden thread woven through the entire story of the Old Testament, with God revealing a little more about him piece by piece over the centuries.
And you can just see it unfolding all through history. It starts way back in Genesis with the seed of the woman. Then you get to Abraham, and it's the seed who will bless the whole world. Then Jacob talks about Shiloh. Even Job, in all his suffering, looks forward to a living Redeemer. By the time you get to Isaiah and the prophets, the picture gets even clearer. But notice the one constant thing? The focus is always laser sharp on this one coming person.
But here's where the story takes a dark turn. According to Owen, something went horribly wrong. This living, breathing faith that had sustained people for centuries, it started to harden. And that hardening process led to an absolute spiritual disaster for the nation.
Yeah, it's really the tragic twist, isn't it? What started as this vibrant, spiritual trust in a divine person, it slowly warped into this lifeless political opinion. Their hope for a divine savior got twisted into a demand for a political king. The whole thing became about earthly power, not spiritual redemption.
And the difference between the two is just, wow, it's night and day. On one side, you had this humble, spiritual faith, patiently waiting for a redeemer, but that got replaced with this carnal, self-righteous attitude that was demanding a king to overthrow their enemies. Trust in God's forgiveness got swapped out for trust in their own rule-keeping and their special status. Grace and love, gone, replaced by pride and ultimately rejection. So what was the result of all this? One single catastrophic mistake. This one shift from a real faith in his person to just an opinion about his job, it led to their total ruin. Because when the person they've been waiting for thousands of years finally showed up, they rejected him. Why? Because he didn't fit their new, messed up idea of what the Messiah was supposed to be.
And Owen uses this incredibly powerful and honestly kind of disturbing image to drive the point home. He says a church can become like a lifeless, breathless carcass. It's a warning that this isn't just some dusty old history lesson. Any church, at any time, can have all the right beliefs on paper, but completely lose the living spirit, the animating grace that's supposed to be at its heart. It becomes just an empty shell.
And this really gets to the core of Owen's warning, a warning that is just as relevant today. He says the real danger isn't always somebody flat out denying the truth. The real danger is when we subtly corrupt it, when we start twisting it to make it fit our own lifestyles, our own politics, our own comfort. That, Owen says, is the sign that a church is on the brink of destruction.
So all of this leaves us with a really challenging question for ourselves, doesn't it? Is our faith a living, breathing trust in a person, or has it become more of a lifeless tradition of just opinions? Are we holding on to a vibrant relationship with Christ himself, or are we just clinging to a set of correct but ultimately empty ideas? It's a heavy thought. Is our faith a living body or just a beautiful but breathless carcass?